Okay, let's go. Welcome everybody to today's webinar. Our first part of best practices as a customer success manager, and the first topic is going to be becoming proactive. Here with you today is Johan Nilsson, our CEO at Startdeliver, and me, Gustav Aurén. And for everybody out there that doesn't know what we do or who we are, we have a long background working with SaaS, and we were missing a tool to become more data-driven and proactive with our customers. So basically, we have a platform that most importantly collect all your customer usage data and also connects with your other tools to help customer success teams and SaaS companies to grow better by becoming data-driven and proactive with its customers. The agenda for today is about 30 minutes of webinar. The webinar will be recorded, and then you'll get all the material afterwards. Send your questions during the webinar, and Johan will try and answer them the best way he can at the end with a short Q&A. Okay, so to get this webinar started, we thought it would be a good idea to take a step back and look at the facts from our own exercises with customers. Johan, what does a typical week for a customer success team look like?
Yes, that's a great question, and I think it's an important one, and it's also a very good exercise to do for your team, for yourself. I've done it several times myself, and I've done it in workshops with customers. And I think you will have an eye opener if you do this, because we believe we do a certain type of activities, but we actually end up doing a lot of other stuff as well. And I think it's a good way to do it is to look at it in these four different boxes. How much time do we spend on incoming issues, things we get in mailbox, in chats from the customers? How much do we spend doing admin stuff? Updating, white papers, whatever it can be, admin stuff. And how much time do we spend in managing projects, having meetings with customers, that type of work? And how much time are we also planning and evaluating and analyzing the customers to set up a plan for what kind of initiatives we want to drive? I think those four boxes are really good way to sort out what activities you actually do.
Yeah, and that was definitely an eye-opener for me on where we did all our focus and work. I mean, I think most of our customers out there as well got pretty surprised about the facts in their cases.
No, it is, and unfortunately, my experience is that we end up doing almost 80% in the first column. We end up there, and we only do 20% in the right column. And of course, the right column is being the proactive, doing the proactive work, and the first column is reactive. And that's of course what we're addressing today. How do you switch this? How do you actually change from being reactive to becoming proactive?
Yeah, and I think I'm definitely a factor for that. We discussed that earlier as well, but all my tagging along meetings with customers and or in sales and marketing, like tagging along with the customer success team all the time, pulling them in different directions from different parts of the organization. Yeah, I think
yes,
most of us are living in that problem, even though we realize it.
No, I agree, and it's the customer success team is usually in the middle of the company. They are between the customer and product, between support and between sales. Yeah. So everybody wants their attention and wants their help and want them to get involved. So a lot of people are usually pulling in the customer success team and the customer success resource. Yeah. So it's very easy to end up in this reactive mode where you try to help out. And it's also very much in the mentality of people working in customer success. Yeah. They want to help out, they want to be available, they want to support in a sales meeting or whatever it can be.
So why do you think we get stuck in reactive mode?
There are those things I mentioned, but there's also other stuff happening here. are we having a good handover? Are we having a good handover from sales to customer success? Are we also having a handover from customer success to support? Because a lot of time, I think, when you spend a lot of time on incoming things from customers, those are actually support tasks.
Yeah.
So are we not doing handovers? Are the onboarding dragging on forever and never really completed? I think those are some underlying issues.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, if you look at these facts, I mean, 80% of the time is being done in the left column there earlier. And now we think we know why we get stuck in this reactive mode. But if we take a step back and remind ourselves, why do we work with customer success? I mean, is this why we're here, to handle these kind of fixes and problems, or why are we here?
No, but that's what you need to do, and I think this is where everybody who created a customer success team, what they had in mind from the beginning, they wanted to do something differently. Yeah. And I think Lincoln Murphy has defined the customer success in a great way, where he talks about customer success is all about having customers stay longer, buy more, and advocate for you. And if you are working in the reactive mode, you will not achieve these things.
Yeah. And I totally agree with this. Those are all great things. I mean, stay longer, buy more, and advocate for us. I mean, that's great goals, but how do we do this? And to deep dive in this, we actually asked Lincoln as well, who is joining us for our customer success event Impact this year, what he thought about being stuck in reactive mode and moving on to proactive mode. So here comes a short video with Lincoln's answer.
I look at it this way. For customer success to work, you have to look at the 4 Ps. There's purpose, people, processes, and performance. And the main reason that customer success teams become reactive or start out reactive and never get out of that mode, they're always in reactive mode, is that really the first P, purpose, is not well defined. You have customer success teams that are there to do something, but really as a whole, the company doesn't know why they're there. They don't know why they're there. And you just end up with a team that just is doing stuff to do stuff. We want to make sure that everything we do as a company really is about ensuring the customer achieves their desired outcome, that they're getting what they need the way they need it, their required outcome plus their appropriate experience. And in the customer success management organization, well, that's what we're here to do. We're here to make sure the customer gets their desired outcome. Well, if that's not clear, then everything you do to operationalize the customer success management team isn't going to, well, it's probably not going to work. And it's certainly not going to allow you to become strategic and proactive. You're just going to be there to do stuff. So first and foremost, get your purpose right. That's a cultural thing that needs to be top down from the CEO and just kind of pushing that down to everybody until you reach that tipping point where we're all on board with it. But then you go into the other 2 Ps that I'll talk about right now, which is people and processes. And I'm not going to get into different roles or the type of characteristics you need for your people. That'll depend on your situation. But what we want to make sure is that our people are doing the right things so that we're not reactive. Well, what are the right things? The right things are knowing what the customer needs to achieve, how they need to achieve it, and working with the customer to get them from point A to point B, and then from point B to point C, and so on. We need to make sure that our people are working as efficiently as possible, that we're not just having meetings to have meetings, that we're not just doing things because we've always done them, that we're really being, very deliberate in the way that we work with our customers. You want to get to a point that your people are getting ahead of your customers so that we can, be proactive. So making sure that your people understand why they're there, knowing what their purpose is, and then operationalizing around that purpose, that's critical. So having your people be as efficient as possible is really important. But then where does that efficiency come from? It comes from the processes. We have to make sure that we understand what it's going to take for the customer to get from where they are. We meet them where they are, and we take them where they need to go. What does it mean from our perspective to get them from where they are to where they need to go? That's what the processes are. That's all that matters. That we don't have processes that are there to just, I don't know, to just be there. And I'll tell you, I say it like that because I run into that all the time. Companies are just doing things to do them. We want to make sure that our processes, just like we said, our people and ultimately our purpose is there to help the customer achieve their desired outcome. The processes that we have in place, whether that's processes built in technology, whether that's processes, just workflows and playbooks and things like that, and probably it's going to be a combination of all of those, that they are designed to help the customer move along this trajectory from point A to point B, from point B to point C, and so on. How do we do that, though? Well, we have to know what it takes for the customer to be successful. First of all, we have to know what their desired outcome is. If you don't know what that is, you can't operationalize customer success management. It's impossible. So we have to know what that is. Then we can build processes around that, the workflows, the interventions, right? If we know that a customer is taking too long to get from point B to point C, we can intervene appropriately. That's becoming proactive, getting ahead of the customer. Having leading indicators of their success progression rather than lagging indicators. When we're in a reactive mode, the lagging indicators are them raising their hand and saying, I need help. In a proactive approach, it's knowing that maybe they veered off course and we can intervene and get them back on track. So understanding that our purpose is critical, that our people have to be working efficiently to solve for that purpose, and ultimately having the processes in place that are designed to help our people be more efficient in delivering on our purpose. Those are the 3 Ps that will help you go from reactive mode to proactive mode. The other P is performance. And that's where we get into measurement and KPIs and things like that. And we'll talk about that in Stockholm on April 29th. But for now, focus on the purpose, the people, and the processes.
Okay, so that was Lincoln's view of this, and we got a few more practical tips there on what actions we can take. But I think we need to deep dive further into this. I mean, one thing that I've seen a lot coming from sales and marketing is that you need to align everybody on what's a good fit and what's a bad fit customer. I mean, if you drive in a bad fit customer into your customer pool, they're not going to stay longer, buy more, or advocate for you.
Absolutely. And I think all those things are, I think everybody understands these. Everybody wants this, but it's harder to do it in practice. And also sometimes it can be that you as a customer success manager feel a little bit alone in this job and in wanting this. And maybe the management and the other people around you do not fully commit to this. And here I think as a customer success manager, you can actually achieve things by bringing stuff to the table that you can do every week, short term as well.
Yeah. And I think that's so important. I mean, you are responsible for the customers. All you customer success managers out there, you're responsible for the customers, but marketing, sales, dev, support, CEOs, I mean, everybody is responsible to take action on what's needed for the customer's best effect or result you want from your platform or your product.
A few things you can do there. You can be the internal ambassador for the customer voice internally. Sharing data on how the customers are doing, sharing data on how the customer is using the product. My experience is that there's not everybody knows exactly how the customer is using the product, what the desired outcome is for different customer types. Sharing that, being the internal ambassador, talking about those things is a great way to get attention, to get more resources, to get more help, to be proactive as well. Yeah. and also to hand over referrals, to get leads basically from existing customers and share those to sales. What a great way to improve the relationship and to show the value of customer success.
Yeah. You should definitely, all you out there should definitely try this. Try in the next month and bring in 10 or maybe 20 new referrals or testimonials to your marketing and sales team, and they should love you after that. And that would...
They will.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I'm sure they will.
And
testimonials is such an important and great thing. And you usually, if you do your customer success work and you're out there with the customers, talking to the customers, you usually pick up a lot of things.
Yeah.
But if you can also turn that into some sort of a documentation, a case, and share that internally and maybe share that externally as well, I think that's also like a real valuable thing that shows your effort, shows the good work you're doing.
Yeah.
So don't forget those things, because those are valuable, and it will also bring the attention of top management to your work.
Yeah. And for those of you that has a hard time setting KPIs for your customer success team, these are great KPIs as well. I mean, you can use referrals and testimonials and see how you improve over time and how they differ and stuff like that. So that's a great way of measuring as well if you don't have a system in place. Okay, so we're talking a lot about being proactive, but I mean, what do we do? What do we mean? How do you become proactive?
Becoming proactive is, I think it's the missing part, and why you introduced customer success from the start. What it comes down to is that if support, if training, if guides, if e-learning, and all those things worked, and that made everybody happy and everybody stayed and everybody bought more and from you, then you wouldn't need customer success. So I think that the most important role customer success has is to be a driver of change. And what I mean by driver of change is that you will correct the customer that's on the wrong path. If you pick up a signal that a customer is gradually using less and less of your product, you need to be the facilitator and make that change, so they start working and acting and doing more with your product. And in the same way, you need to be the driver of change when you see a customer using your product and moving them up to the next level, upgrading, expanding, doing more with your product. So this is where I think you as a customer success manager has the big part to play.
Yeah.
And to do that, you need to start by looking at data. You need to find out how the customer actually is doing. You need to analyze the customer. You need to analyze the customer on of course, the normal things as the size of the customer, the potential of the customer, all those things. But you also need to analyze the customer based on where they are.
Yeah.
How they use the product, how long have they been with you, how many people are using it, which roles, whatever it can be, of course, very specific for your type of product. But you need to be focused on where they are.
Yeah.
You can also have other things as feedback, as support, as engagement, and other things play into this. But I think the key here is to actually look at where the customer is, what they're using, and then also, of course, look at what was the main purpose of becoming a customer. What's the main goal with them? What's their desired outcome?
Yeah.
And from there, you always get insights on what to do. And this can be, of course, very different situations where the customer is. Sometimes we have a customer that's really bad. They're barely using the product. The feedback is poor. Everything is looking red for us, and then you have to handle that in one way. You can have a customer that's partially using the product and partially happy, and then what you do?
Yeah, that might be a competence issue, maybe.
That could be that. It could be that, and it can be also, of course, Some parts of the organization has been onboarded properly and some has not. It can be many different things.
Yeah.
But only when you look at it in a deeper level, you will actually have the insights to drive the right type of actions.
Yeah.
And I think when you start analyzing the customer, when you start looking at where they actually are, you will realize that all customers are not having the same issue, are not having the same problem, are not in the same situation. And here is, I think, a really good exercise and a really good way to get more structured is to identify 3, 2, 4, or whatever it is, different root causes to having them either being in a risk situation or, of course, also being in a good expansion situation. These are 4 that we've been working with with several companies where we separate competence when they have a competence problem, when they have a way of working problem, when they have a technical problem, or if they have a motivational problem. These are completely different in many ways and require, of course, completely different solutions to move the needle. For instance, if you have a problem in competence, that's usually fixable with training, with better guides, and this can also be probably semi-automated in one way or the other.
Yeah.
But that will not work, for instance, if it's a technical issue. If there is a technical issue, and with that we mean it could be like a integration problem, a data quality problem, a bug, whatever it can be, and this can be of course customer specific. Training will of course not help here. This is usually a communication problem.
Yeah.
It's a very common situation when you have an issue here is that you have like something the customer. Something that's a big problem for the customer, and it's a technical issue, and it's been buried somewhere in a long list of second line issues to solve. Yeah. And this is where you need to fix it, and you need to communicate it, and you need to bring the customer along and introduce the solution and make sure the solution was really implemented.
Yeah, and make sure everybody is on board. Maybe only stakeholders is a common mistake as well.
Yeah.
You talk to the stakeholder, they're satisfied, they're happy with the system, they're using it good maybe, but half of the organization isn't even started yet. Very important.
Exactly. Then if you look at this way of working issues, way of working is sometimes the system has been set up the wrong way. You're trying to put a square into a hole, if you like. And this can be many different reasons, but here you need to start over again.
Yeah.
The customer might be changing to another product because they don't think your product is working for them. And that's, of course, also a completely different solution than the other two. Then if we look at the last one, which is motivation, I think it's probably the most tricky one to solve, but also there you have to think about it in a different way than the other ones. If it's a motivational issue, it's usually about going back to start over the sales process. And this might require that you bring someone else along as a customer success manager.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's bringing your manager or your boss, and sometimes it's about bringing sales in again. Yeah. Sometimes about bringing the CEO in again.
Or the dev team, or definitely. And you should always evaluate here as well if it's a bad fit. I mean, because even how much you work with the motivation won't matter if it's a bad fit customer. Then it might be better to churn that customer willingly to start focusing on the more important ones.
Yes, it should always be looked at if it's a bad fit when you have serious motivational issues. Yeah. But it's not always the case. So, but you have to realize it's a completely different problem from the other ones, and you need to address it in a different way.
Yeah.
So our recommendation here is to identify these root causes to the customer being in a bad situation with you, and when you've done that, the next step is to look at what are the actions we can put in here.
Yeah.
And this is also something we will bring up in the second episode of the best practices of a customer success manager. We will focus in on actions with impact, which is all about this.
Yeah. Okay, so to summarize this, what's the most important points?
I think the most important point here is that customer success, we are drivers of change.
Yeah.
And to be a driver of change, you need to have time to do proactive work. And you need to free up time to analyze and understand exactly where the customer is and where they want to go.
Yeah.
And where they want to go with you. I think that's the most important thing. And then you also have to understand that and also identify different situations. Because each situation, I think you can find needs different actions. And that will help you become more efficient and have a bigger impact on what you do.
Yeah. Okay, so looking forward for part 2. Johan is getting ready here for your Q&A. So I'm going to thank you all for today and joining us on this webinar. And over to you, Johan.